I designed and made and 3D printed my very own Fume Extractor for both my soldering station and my laser engraver. This was way above my pay grade and skill level in terms of 3D printing and modeling and actually designing a thing myself, but the only way I'm really going to learn these things is if I jump in head first on projects that I'm actually going to use. That's just how my ADHD brain works. And so I hated the Amazon Fume Extractor I had. It wasn't suitable enough for what we had going on. My dad and I installed a big induction fan in the ceiling with a 4-inch tube coming down so that we could use it for things, but it still needed an intake fan. And so this is the design I came up with. This is my first attempt at one of these kinds of maker workshop vlogs. And with that, I'm testing out a lot of new things here. So the audio is not going to be amazing. Sometimes the frame rate drops on the cameras because I'm still getting my camera situation going with all the network cameras and things like that. So I learned a lot in terms of the production workflow that will be better for future vlogs like these. But I really wanted to share this experience with you because it's a lot of fun and I want to do more of this kind of maker content and enjoy the ride because it gets a little weird. The first step, of course, was designing the concept itself. I pulled out my bin of computer fans. I've honestly gotten rid of a lot recently as I've hoarded them for years and years and never really had many use for a lot of the spares. So I grabbed my most powerful one I had left, which was one of these Noctua PPC industrial fans that goes up to 2,000 RPM. Got some measurements off of it and started designing on my iPad. I use Notability for these kinds of drawings with the Apple Pencil. It's super nice. Getting the core design concept down of basically just a box with a shroud and a tube spot coming out and the fan just pushes air right into it. Simple concept, but of course getting, some basic measurements, getting the start of the process going. And then I wanted to make sure this would actually work. So I had to snip off the extra fan leads. This is of course a 4-pin fan, but you only need 2 of them to, power and run it, especially since we're not controlling the speed. Now with Noctua, they went with their own color scheme. So instead of black and red, you get green and yellow. Hook them up to my desktop power supply at 12 volts and the thing zips. That will be plenty of speed and way more powerful than the cheapo Amazon Fume Extractor that I had. So it was time to jump into Tinkercad. And I will say with this project, I feel like I have already graduated from Tinkercad. I'm only just learning to use it and I'm already running into limitations and talking with some people over on our Discord server. It seems like for the kinds of things I'm now designing, Tinkercad just isn't, suited to the task. But of course, the basic concepts of I'm building a big box and then I want some slats on the side for the shroud to kind of slide over top in front of, and then obviously the hole cut out for the fan itself. And then from there, I started, figuring out how to use cones, which were a little bit difficult here, and getting a cone attached to the back so we could, of course, reduce the box's square size down to the 4-inch tube that we are going to be feeding this exhaust through, and then getting little cylinders going as little spokes to hold the fan in place by poking through the actual holes in the fan. And then, of course, I wanted to end the cone design that we have going with a few inches of the actual 4-inch tube that our flex tube can actually grip onto, and we can use zip ties or tape or whatever we need to have the hose attached to the box itself. But I do need a couple inches of just normal, non-cone shape, just flat cylindrical 4-inch tube to go onto. And so added that on the back and started combining some of the parts. And then from there, it started to get real complicated in trying to figure out how I would design the electricals to go inside. I obviously ran into some issues getting the actual holes filled right out of the cylinders and getting the parts combined right. But then, of course, we're not just shoving a fan in a box. I need a hole to run the power through, and then I need actual space within the box itself to add in the electrical. So we're going to have the wiring. I am planning to convert it to USB power at this point, so it's easy to power anywhere. So we need room for that little bit of electronics, and then I wanted to include a toggle switch. So got to get all the holes and a little circle in the box placement going there. I decided that this would be best if I broke the box up into 2 parts. So we have the main box and then what is effectively a lid on top that houses the wiring, the switch, and all of that I could just attach right on top after I've ran all the wiring. And that seemed to work out pretty well. Here I am designing some tabs so that I've been trying to, when I have multi-part pieces after doing my beacon build, I'm trying to implement a tab system of some sort, so there's a little bit more to grip onto between pieces. This ended up not working out, but that's fine. And then started adding more holes and attachments for the flex arms, the helping hands and things like that I wanted to add on. Now, before we go any more advanced or further with the design process, I wanted to get a test print going so that I could make sure we can fit our fan and that the concept itself will work. And I don't know where the time-lapse footage went for this part, but it ended up dying halfway through and just like no longer spitting out the 3D filament the right way. But that is fine because it gave us enough of a test fit. Again, I don't know what hell happened to the footage there, but the test fit worked. We were able to move forward with the concept, and so I started designing it with embedding some nuts in mind. I wanted 1/4-20 nuts around 3 of the sides so that we could attach it to a mounting system to mount it in place, and then I wanted the M4, I believe, or M4 or M5, I don't remember which now, threads of just basically screws embedded in, or bolts embedded in, so that we could attach the helping hands. However, I had to start this 3D printing process a couple times. So the problem I'm running into here, I thought I had this all figured out, and this solution isn't going to work. I was specifically trying to, for security's sake and like durability, I had this whole plan. I put in this whole effort into embedding 1/4-20 nuts and washers, and then down here embedding the actual M5 bolt and washer required for the helping hands into the plastic. And so I went through, I've now spent hours printing and reprinting this with that in mind to get it, trying to get the posit height option working here with my 3D printer. Only to realize, after I had the next version of the print going, this isn't going to work. Because unlike a flat thing, or if I was just doing it on one surface in a flat way, in order for these nuts and bolts to be embedded, you can't wait until this last layer before the ceiling, or they won't fit in, because it's now smaller than the total width of the nut or the bolt or the washer. You have to do it about halfway. But if you do it that way, then the print head is just going to keep smashing into that as it tries to pass over it, because it's not smart or aware enough to figure that out, and there's no way to do it. So I need to go back to Tinkercad, ungroup all this crap, and instead of the holes, actually put in the M5 threads and the 1/4-20 nuts just made out of plastic. And then I'm going to have to increase the infill to make up for that to keep it rigid, which is going to make this take forever. But theoretically not as forever as it would have taken, keeping in mind that I would have had to keep pausing it, and it would probably pause overnight and wait on me to add these in. So the solution I ended up going with there is just finding some existing Tinkercad models for M4 bolts and for some 1/4-20 washers and things like that, and just embedding those with support blockers and holes in the print, and it was time to print the actual main thing. Along the way, the print failed a couple times, and we had to get this going a couple times because there were tiny little gaps in the 3D model that Tinkercad made not obvious at all. I spent forever lining these up, and as far as I could tell, getting rid of the gaps, and lo and behold, they were still there, as is plaguing this last piece here. All right, as best as I can tell overall, this thing actually turned out pretty stellar. Other than, once again, not being able to see tiny little gaps in Tinkercad has bit me in the ass again. It appears for the final ring that the crucial component that the tube is supposed to connect to, it just kind of tried to float plastic for a bit until it got enough of a little rat's nest here that it could impressively still print the ring itself. So we kind of lucked out, because that could have ended a lot worse. But I feel like it's fixable. There are two ways we can go about this, and I'm not sure the best method yet because I've never done it. I have CA glue and baking soda. We can just try to seal it up. I'm almost thinking the end that was supposed to be the outside of the ring is better, because this one is very rough and uneven, whereas this one kind of matches the print a lot better. Or I could try welding it. Apparently, I just learned today that welding 3D prints is a thing using a power drill. Although I don't know that I have the exact plastic piece that I might need for it. Theoretically, I feel confident we can attach this. Alternatively, if we can't, which is why I'm not going to take out any of the rest of the supports yet, if I can't make that work, my last-ditch effort, because this was a 36-hour print. I don't exactly want to just start over and waste all this plastic. As a last-ditch effort, I could try to line this back up on the print bed and try to find the layer that the gap is at and just restart the print at that point. That could be a recipe for disaster as well. So I think we're going to try the glue first. I've seen good things about this, and supposedly this kind of glue works really well with plastic, even though it says wood formula. This is still, yeah, cyanocrylate, whatever. Super glue basically, but in a bigger bottle. So we're gonna trim up the fat on the little rat's nest. Well, we don't really need to. We can pull some of this off. But we're gonna, like I said, we're gonna glue the bottom. And the bond, from everything I've read and from how everyone brags about this glue, especially, I do have some baking soda if we need to seal it up to form like a bigger material. I've heard that it's like strong enough that it should be fine for our purposes. Apparently my sit-stand desk has a timer that I never knew about, and I turned it on. I don't even know what I was saying. But yeah, the glue should be strong enough that between that and, like, worst case, this is going in the tube. Like, my solution at this moment is literally the tube with some tissue box pieces duct taped to the shroud. So, like, ultimately it's gonna look fine. I just knocked something off of the desk though. Oh, it's fine. Ultimately it's gonna look fine. So I think, you know, you're not going to see this part, so no matter what solution we come to, as long as it's secure enough, we're going to be okay. So, let me find the right angle to try this glue. We may even gaff tape gaff tape it from the inside, so that we know we have it in the right spot. And like the tape's not going to interfere with airflow. Yeah, I think this is the plan. Ugh. Just a little bit of tape to make sure we're not misaligned here. We will want some glue on the inside as well, but we can do that after the backstage. All right, so this isn't perfectly the right shape because, again, it was the opposite end of the tube, but I really think we'll be able to seal up those gaps. Maybe I'm overconfident. We're gonna find out. Like I said, we're in uncharted territories for myself here. I think we start on the side. I think this is the play. Prop it up here. This is where a big gap is that we want to seal. See how the glue does on its own, and then we can add the baking soda if we need to activate it. Yeah, I think that would be smart. I'm just gonna make the call now. I hope this doesn't make a huge mess. Ugh. Sprinkle a little bit in here. Everything I've read and heard in videos, this acts as an activator for the glue, and then it forms a more solid bond that creates material, whereas glue might just seep into this, the crack and do its own thing. This actually turns it solid and should basically activate it within seconds. We can just Yeah, that's impressive. Okay, I see the appeal now. We will just keep going along this path. Look at that. It is filling it quite nicely and not running into the tube itself. Color me impressed. And it's actually following, I don't know if you can see that on camera, it's actually following the gap down when it drips instead of dripping off, so it's actually doing my job for me. This is good shit. Just don't get it on your skin. Now, I am very impressed with this, but I am probably going to glue it from the inside as well, because this will hold some weight with the tube on it, especially moving it back and forth. So I want to make sure it's good, and we'll probably keep tape on the inside after we finish the glue job out there, and I'll probably tape the outside as well, just so we're like super redundant here. But that is on there. That is, I can hold the whole thing by it. Now we are exposing a little more gap with that, so we're gonna add a little more glue, but it's working. It's not just immediately snapping off. Fill in those gaps, please. There we go. Now they do make activator sprays for this kind of glue, but apparently it smells really funky. And I have enough fume concerns, which is the whole point of this project, so baking powder's way cleaner. Now, if I wanted to be super paranoid about this, I could design and 3D print yet another little over kind of, for lack of a better word, since I keep using the same word, like a shroud to go over top this little cone here. But it couldn't be much bigger in diameter or it won't fit in our air tube, so I'm not sure that's the right call yet, unless we have bigger concerns. But basically just like a transition that glues to both pieces. We could do that. Like I said, I don't think it's necessary, but we have options. Because I really don't think trying to reprint part on top of that print was going to work, especially since it immediately came off the print bed, so there was no way to like keep it perfectly aligned. And I have already had bad results trying to resume prints. The print head just knocking it off the table. Alright, I think we just kind of let it sit, and then we'll start pulling supports off. I am weirdly optimistic about this. I don't know if I have the right to be, but we'll see. Alright, it's been a few hours, time for this to set, and this thing is rock solid. I have no concerns about it going anywhere. By the way, this video is exclusive to Nebula, so I'm still testing out all the settings. I know this camera is completely overexposed. I'm still working on getting all this network setup sorted out, and now the AC just kicked on, right as I go to record. By the way, we had a Goodwill run today, so I picked up this awesome, like, really good shape keyboard to see if it has any circuit bending potential, and if not, my kid can have it. But it's got different instruments, different tones, some drum stuff. So if it has the right hardware inside, we get circuit bending. But that'll be a project for another day. And then I picked up my first of my mini collection I'm going to be growing of baking sheets. This was another tip I picked up from Adam Savage for organizing for in-progress projects, because I always have so many in-progress projects, and I need a way to take them off the workbench to work on other things. And building some sort of slotted shelf system where I can just set stuff on here, pretty good to go. And frankly, no one's going to reuse someone's old sticky baking sheet. So worst case, I can just paint them if I can't get them to be not sticky anymore, and got a perfect little system here. But this is my first pan. I'll need like 6 or 8 of them, and then to build a little slotted little cubby system for them. But that's, again, another day, just what we're going with. Ongoing projects here. So the next step is to start breaking out these supports and see if our fan still fits after all of this, which I am optimistic that it will, but you know how that goes. So we have a big old box of support here where the pegs for the fan sits are and supporting the cone. I'm hoping we can pull this out without breaking off the pegs. Because the pegs should have a fair bit of infill, whereas the support is a little more sparse, but not as much as I might hope. I was hoping with the right leverage I'd be able to just break off the piece on its own. I can try really quickly here. If I can gently just nudge it. Again, I don't want to break the peg. If I fully rip the corner off, I'm going to lose it. Jesus. Alright. By the way, if anyone has recommendations for what to do with all your plastic scraps other than tossing them, I'm all ears. It feels really wasteful, but there's no easy alternative. See, the support is like very tightly wound. I don't know if you can see that. It's very tightly wound around the peg, so I gotta be super careful with how I try to strip it off. Oh, yep. And we lost it. Alright, so thankfully, I knew this was a risk. Thankfully, at least based on our first model, the fan friction fits really well. But this was the exact scenario I was trying to avoid, but with these supports, I've not been getting along with supports in my projects very well. They seem to cause... Now, there was a bug, apparently, in the 4.13 version of Ultimaker Kira that would print support trees through your actual project. And so I was running into that a lot, and they have just fixed that in the 4.3.1 update I just downloaded. But this is just kind of inherent to how the peg was in a hole. I'm going to try to glue that back into place. But I don't think it matters overall. Damn it! Lost that one too. There's at least some remnant of a peg in that hole. Yeah, I think these holes are mostly a lost cause. That's really unfortunate. Again, I am going to glue them back in place if we can, but there is not going to be a ton of point. Damn! Alright. The original direction I wanted to print this did not have supports in the box, but I had to flip it to make it work, so that's part of the problem. Alright, I'm just going to rip these out then. No, I don't want to break my other screw hole. Oh, we got one! We got one that survived. That's actually legitimately better than nothing. Like, they're tangibly, that is beneficial. Alright. Let's pull our borders off, and then I will attempt to reattach some of these. There's the other one. Yeah, that's what I was worried about with doing dedicated, like, bolts coming out of this, is the support just really screws up the threading. Hopefully we can save that. Alright, this is part one of our piece. We actually have 2 more parts to print. But this is the primary part. I guess we can go ahead and do an initial test fit with our fan. We might have to take these rubber feet off. Yeah. But otherwise, it's gonna fit. Yes! Success! The rubber feet will obviously help with some noise isolation, but fits well enough and doesn't want to come out now. So that is about what I was hoping for. There we go. Those missing pegs are not going to be a problem. If anything, if I screw them back in, they're going to be more likely to be in the wrong spot and not work. So we will want to mount it like... And uh-oh. Okay. So I put the hole in the wrong spot because I'm a dum-dum and was envisioning it facing this way, but that is air blowing out. I need to go this way, and I need the hole. And this cable's not going to fit. Well, if I take the sleeving off, the wires themselves will fit through. Yeah, that's not going to be a problem. I'll figure it out. That's fine. Or I can drill another hole. I can make it work. Okay. So before we move to printing the next part, just a final test here. So the mounting solution for this will be one of these friction arms on a super clamp. That way I can move it between places. And on the end, I just have a double threaded baby stud. It's going to go in these 1/4-20 taps. Now, I noticed that the nut design that I embedded in here was not deep enough. These holes are pretty shallow. But as long as I can get this in here and it'll make its own kind of pathway through the rest. Oh, that's really tight. That's supposed to be 1/4-20 though. As long as it can make its own pathway and still like retain its rigidity in here, then I'm okay. I just got a plastic splinter. That was no fun. Jesus Christ. Ow. Alright. That's not very reassuring though. This is why I wanted to embed like an actual nut, but theoretically, once I get this in here once, it'll have an easier time going back in. Ah, it's already easier now. Oh, that's because it's not going anywhere. We have just spun out some plastic. Yeah, it's just running into the plastic there. That's hilarious. So we have 0 functional hull here at the moment. That is not good. Because this is the top. I wanted it to be mounted underneath. Against... We're gonna have to drill it a little bit. Yeah, those threads are gone now. That was not... That design off Tinkercad for the 1/4 inch nut was not big enough. Is that really... Alright, we may mangle all of our hard work here. That's why I was taking it one problem at a time. Some bolts for these helping hands, but they had supports on them. Alright, that's pretty solid. I'm probably going to break them off at some point. Well, that sucked. They're mangling my baby. Oh, there's not even going to be enough supporting plastic. I don't know if... This whole piece might be a scrap. That's why I don't want to start the other one yet. Because I still don't know how I'm getting this in here. Alright, that will fit. I don't know if we'll be able to make it hold. That will technically fit. between the hammer fit and the glue, I'm hoping after it, you know, sets for a little longer, that will hold enough for what we're doing. Maybe worst case, I get a quick release plate on it, so I'm not actually threading it all that often. I would be totally cool with that. The next dilemma, though, is getting these M5 bolts in there. So thankfully, since my original plan was to embed these anyway, I just couldn't do it on the sides. I have some. This thing's gonna look super jank, but we could theoretically give it a good, you know, paint job afterwards. I was hoping to keep the nice galaxy red going, but I think it's time to give up hope on that one now. Alright. Was that a little bigger of a hole than I anticipated? Yeah, this is gonna sink in there. That's not good. What if we just fill it with plastic? Right there. Don't want it to go any further. But that should work. Oh, yeah. That nut worked out perfectly. All right. I think we're okay. Like I said, this whole thing is probably going to get a paint job now. Maybe. Maybe not. It's industrial. That's supposed to look jank. Yes. Yes, it works. And it's not turning in the hole, which is what matters. All right. So we've proven we can execute the concept. Obviously, we have some more hammering and gluing to do. I'm going to go ahead and get the second piece adjusted and then printing. That way we're not waiting needlessly on it. This is good enough for now in terms of mounting. I realize this thing is looking worse and worse by the minute. But I think we're going to hit it with a coat of paint and it's going to be fine. We've now got washers mounted at each of the embeds to try to give it some more security, which is not going to be a problem here for like fitting it. And it just gives a little something more to hold on to. Well, yeah. I think it feels pretty good for now. That was my loosest joint, so maybe I shouldn't have done that. But I think it's going to hold up. We're going to wait for the next piece to print. Smack it on top here. Feeling pretty good. Like I said, it's going to need paint. That's fine. All right, here we have our completed top piece. I printed this with a kind of absurd amount of infill. I'm kind of regretting that. So we have our support, because I couldn't print it flat to have the M5 threads. These look a lot better. I think these are still going to be usable. The thread for the 1/4-20 tap on the top is still too shallow, but frankly, I don't see myself using it. So I'm not even sure it's worth drilling out, honestly. And it's still too small. This is what I get for trusting someone else's model for this kind of thing. Yeah, that's too tight and too shallow. That's fine. I'm probably never going to screw it on the top anyway, so we have to figure out how to get all this support material off, because it's kind of ridiculous. But otherwise, we can get this mounted on top and glued on, and the front shroud with the wings that we may or may not use is printing now. That'll be done overnight, unfortunately. These prints take forever. Yeah, I don't really know what the best way of trying to break all this off is. It's really like in here. Well, this is working for the whole part. I feel like I need like a razor to just like shave off this grid. Alright, I lost one of the little pegs here in the process. I'm having an issue where the squares that I printed, despite the fact that I had them printed to be the same size as the solid and the hole version, the solid part is bigger than the holes, and so I have it snap fitted together, but now I can't get it unfit, which means it'll be a good strong fit long term, and there won't even need to be a ton of glue, which is good, but I hope I don't break it trying to separate them here. There we go. Alright, so effectively this part will snap and glue into this half. It has a cubby here which will fit one of our toggle switches, I hope. It should basically perfectly fit a toggle switch in here. The power cable for the fan will run up here, get converted to USB. Snap these pieces on. Toggle switch out the top for power. We need to drill our USB hole in the back of this piece because I did not account for it initially. And then we're going to go ahead and wire up the fan. I think we're ready. We got our toggle switch and we'll need a sacrificial USB cable. And we're just going to go ahead and get it wired up and sealed up. And then the front shroud is printing now. And we can basically call it done. I don't know that I'm going to print it. I know it looks terrible, but it's a workshop utility piece. It doesn't need to look good. It doesn't need appearances. It just needs to function. And function, it will do. I know for execution, for like the video's sake, it would obviously look significantly better. We had a nice fresh coat of paint and it looked more consistent, but I think this is going to be an exercise in rushed project, or, you know, an example of rushed projects and the results you get from that, and kind of figuring it out as you go. Oh yeah, I guess I do need a USB cable first. I have ends. Do I really want to go that route? Where did my USB ends go? Maybe they're all still in here. Batteries. I've not fully sorted everything as much as I need to. I just had USB ends. Oh, I have a bin labeled it. Son of Jesus. It's like 1 a.m. It's been a long day. I have some sort of excuse. I could set it up this way. That might be the play. That might be the play. Actually, I don't want to go USB. I changed my mind. Last minute. Because I'm pretty sure when we tested this, I was testing 12 volts, not 5 volts. Yeah, we were testing 12 volts. We got a universal power supply we could run at 12 volts. That would work. I think that might be the smarter play. Because I want it to zip like it zipped. Got one of these Belker 12-volt universal power supplies. That means we will need a power plug. I think this is the move. Out of convenience, if nothing else. This will just barely fit if I drill out or even cut out the side. I can hot glue that in there. Then we got power running out the back, power supply. Ooh. This might fit better. Ooh, that's a much better fit. Alright. Not the cleanest hole ever, but it will work. For our purposes. I think. Guess I should confirm that first. Oh no, just a little bigger. That's what she said. Oh, actually. Aha! Yes! Success! Right at the back there. Uh-huh. Uh-huh, uh-huh, uh-huh. Right, we're gonna leave that as is. I need to cut off some more of this sleeve. It is nice, but it's... Actually, I need to cut off this whole thing. Alright, let's take a look here. Fan is going in the box. This cable is way too long. It's a nice, you know, this is a thick shielded shield braid, for a lack of a better word, but this is coming in here. I literally need like the tiniest amount of slack, so we can use the rest for another project, or for this project even. There we go. And I'm just going to unsleeve the rest of this if I can. Yep, there we are. Alright, the fan actually has to be in here before we can start soldering, so we're about to make some final steps. Alright, these are really liking to separate, so let's go ahead and tin these up just to be safe. Ah! Gotta turn on my janky intake for now. It's not moving the smoke at all, but that's fine. Alright. Oh wait, I didn't need wire. We had wire. Damn it. That's fine. I want this one going straight to the fan. That one going to the power. And that one go into both the grounds. Alright, ready to solder the fan parts on. I think we're good after this, so I guess I'm just gonna have to handhold it. Ground to ground. Of course, I need 3 hands for this. There we go. And positive to positive. Alright. I think we did it. Let's make sure it works before we start gluing or anything. Well, I pushed the plug in. Is it too big? Question mark? There we go. It works. That thing. Oh, we're blowing everything off the desk. Yeah, that's gonna do it. That'll do, pig. Oh, I'm so excited. Okay, okay. It works! Obviously, this is like the most basic circuit in the world. There wasn't a huge doubt that it was going to work. I just am excited to see the results of my work. Alright, I think the play here is the hot glue, which is gonna be annoying because this glue gun is trash. If you have any recommendations of worthwhile hot glue guns for the workshop that aren't like hundreds and hundreds of dollars, I am all ears, baby. We'll get that heating up. I think we're done with the soldering iron. We have this whole strand of cable that we can reuse. Nice! I can feel Voltar like rolling over in his grave right now, but this is fine for what this is. I'm also running out of glue. Ah, stringy bastard. Alright, to attach our two sides, instead of hot glue, of course, we're going to use CA glue, actually. But only a tiny bit. Like, as I explored before, the tabs actually provide a really solid friction fit, so we just need, like, a tiny bit of glue to keep us secure long term. And I think we're good. The box is otherwise going to be made. Other than, like I said, the front shroud, which I will demo in a little bit. Oh wow, there's already so much stuck in the lid here. Oh, and on my fingers. That was a mistake. That was the big mistake. Oh yeah, you can hear those snaps. I had to break the tabs off to get it to evenly... Like I explained before, the tabs aren't perfect for some reason. And this alignment is not perfect. But it's the best it will do. Yeah, I'm feeling pretty good about that. It's never going to be held by this anyway. Like, I put the tap up here, but I'm not going to use it for that. Look at our little zippy boy. Alright, so it's going to be tomorrow before that other piece is done. But we can go ahead and get it clamped up. So I don't know if I explained this before. We're using an impact articulating arm. Just a basic single arm friction arm. We're using a super clamp, which I have completely misplaced. Oh yeah, stuck up on these arms and clamps so often, I discovered I have one of these that's been sitting here for months that I never even opened. And this is just a giant clamp with a ratchet handle that will let me clamp onto little things, as well as hopefully, the giant sides of my workbench. And on the top, it has this spigot or baby pin hole. This little locking clamp. This goes in one side. These have threaded ends. So, this goes in part of it. Press the button, tighten it up. Lock it into place. And then this has a 3/8 or whatever size, the thicker thread hole that this baby pin can screw into. Then we can mount our box. Guess I'm going to mount it from underneath for this one. Yeah, and then I can get like right above my project or wherever I want to be with this arm system. Alright, this is the jankiest setup ever. We're going to do an up close and a further back so you can see the actual flow in the tube, but also from up front here. Move some of this stuff out the way. So again, this is the, however much it costs, desktop fume extractor, which is duct taped with some cardboard to my tube with an actual inductor fan running at like 180 or 250 CFM up in the attic. Gets really loud, and for this, we're just using some aerosol atmosphere, just a fogger can. If I spray it off camera here, you can see whatever gets in the actual, like, square gets sucked in, but the rest of the room stays pretty fogged. So now, of course, if I do it directly at it. Now, part of that is also the filter, which I'm going to take off, because we're not going to be using one, as I think I mentioned, because we have the air going out of the space. All right, so same thing from far away. It does a little better, to give it credit. It does better. But it's still not great. Directly at it. Like it's moving some air. But you can kind of see over here, there's still a lot just floating about. Obviously it's behind it, but like, you can't feel airflow here. Duct tape is so bad, it leaves so much residue. We will need one more. Something pretty interesting. I don't know if you can see that. The air moving is actually already spinning the fan. Alright, but we're going to do generally the same test here. Get her powered up. Get the camera set up. Alright, again, a general area spray. It is picking up a fair bit more. Of course, if it lofts too far away, you know, physics, it's just going to try to dissipate elsewhere, but it sucks up a lot. Ooh, and you can definitely... Oh. Okay, I forgot I was recording. Or not recording. So, with the general area spray, it's picking up a lot. Like, you can feel the airflow. But obviously, due to physics, if it dissipates or, like, lofts too far away from the fan, it's not going to necessarily pull it back over here and then suck it in. But, frankly, that's fine. It picks up a lot, though. And if we move it to the tunnel, you can actually see it move this time. Yeah, look at that fill up with the smoke. Oh, yeah. Alright, the next up-close shot I kind of want to get is actually soldering. We turned off our soldering iron. I want to see solder smoke. We can even adjust our angle here. That's part of the advantage of this set, is we can come down close. Kind of being weighed by the tube at the moment, but we'll fix that later. Let me get something to solder. Oh yeah. I hope you can see that. It's going right in there. It doesn't even, like, there's no chance of it escaping. Like, even if I'm soldering over here. Ow, that hurt. I just splattered solder everywhere. But you get the point. It picks up the vast majority of this stuff. I may have, like, burnt up my tip. Whoops. That is amazing. I love it. I love it so much. Alright. Ow! That's quick. Covering my desk and or workbench and hands in solder. Alright, we have our print for the shroud. I'm not attached to using this if it doesn't work. And it's currently a flimsy box like an old speaker or something, so we gotta carefully get all the supports off and see if it's usable, if it will slot into place. Because it might be pretty cool. Like I said, I feel like the package is fairly complete now. This just kind of ties everything together. Oh my. It looks like it didn't print any supports for the top flap, so it's just like super stringy. Ugh. That is not ideal. No, it is not. Ow. It's not exactly the shape I had in mind for it, but it kind of does the job. The stringiness isn't ideal, but it's not going to interfere with airflow. I don't really know that this does anything or adds to it, but definitely makes it a complete package. So yeah, this is what we've got going here. I have designed and built with many failures along the way. My own Fume Extractor shroud hood thing. Yeah. It ain't pretty, But it's going to serve me a lot of good, because we have a lot of soldering to do. I almost forgot crucial details. We need our helping hands. I love it. I love it.